Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Last First Date Radio, featuring interviews with experts in dating, relating, and mating in midlife. And now, here's your host, Sandy Weiner.
This is episode number 383, a stand-up comic dishes on dating in midlife. Hello, everybody. This is Sandy Weiner, and welcome to Last First Date Radio, where we believe it is never too late for love and that a woman of value naturally attracts the respect and rewards she deserves in life and love. A woman of value is somebody who shows up, stands up, and speaks up and knows her value. And so every week we bring you a tip on how to be more of that woman of value. And this week's tip is dare to think big. I know that when I first got divorced and I started my own business in coaching, I was scared to be bigger. I wanted to hide. I was married to a stand-up comic, and we'll get more into that later, but being married to a performer, I was the background person. I was the head writer. I was the designer of his puppet sets and the big picture thinker, but not the big person out front. But I also realized very quickly that if I wanted to get found and have a business, I needed to think bigger and I needed to get out of my comfort zone. So my challenge to you today is, if you're thinking small about yourself, your dreams, just take a moment and see what would be 10% bigger than where you are now, and go for it, because we get one chance at this life, and you don't want to have regrets that you didn't do what you dreamed of doing. And before I bring on Gail Forrest, who's my guest, I want to make sure that you know about my Facebook group. It's a free group called Your Last First Date. And if you're over 40, you're a woman, and you want to learn how to be better at dating and relationships so you can be in a relationship and join, we are very focused on positive growth. We are not a place to come and vent and talk about how horrible men are. We are a place for you to learn about yourself and about men and about dating and relationships, and really start to gain the skills you need to find your last first date. So now for our guest, Gail Forrest. She is an author, a stand-up comic from Second City. She's an entrepreneur, a humorist, a dating expert, and a blogger. She knows how to make you laugh at herself, at yourself, at other people, and especially at her sharp, provocative, memorable declarations and videos about online dating after 50. She is joining us today to talk about the humor that can be found when dating in midlife. Welcome to the show, Gail.
Sandy, I love your optimism.
Well, it's not false.
You're
it's,
great. You're like the half-full woman. Yay.
I am. Well, and it's not fake. First of all, I mean, what's the alternative to believe everything is doom and gloom and we're all going to die? That doesn't work for me. But also, learning. When I went to coaching school, I really gained the tools to make it all happen. It's not just wishful thinking, pie in the sky, like everything's going to change. But there are steps you can take, and a lot of my clients come to me having grown up in really horrible codependent homes where their parents didn't give them the love they needed, and they never had the modeling for a healthy relationship. And so I help them with that. I help them to start being more self-compassionate and self-loving, and from that place, we are much better at dating. So I go deep. I go within. So it's not just blind optimism. I'm not just some psychotic person. I'm really basing it on reality and on what?
I think I'm not trying to burst anyone's bubble. I just think it gets at midlife, lots of things change for women and men, except I think women are just far more self-conscious than men are. Men, I believe, and I'm not dissing men, I love men. I've been married to twice, and I think men are just a little better at ignoring their faults or ignoring their responsibilities in a relationship or never looking in a mirror. So,
well, they look in a mirror and they think they look great, and we look in a mirror and think, oh, my God, cellulite.
Who is that?
And they're like, right, and they're looking at the big gut and going, I look pretty hot. So,
they do.
Why do you think
men have magic mirrors? That's my joke. That's always my joke. It's sort of my running joke. They have magic mirrors. Like I agree. We look in the mirror like, oh my God, is it my mother? Who is that? Like sometimes you're like, who's that? And then you realize, it's happened to a few of my girlfriends. You're just in a store and you're walking around and you look in a mirror and you don't even know that's you. So,
yeah. We need
but
more
women
magic
are
mirrors.
far more. Yeah, I know. I'm like, or one of my girlfriends said, just look at one very small part of your face at a time.
Yeah, well, I think one of the wonders of nature is that our eyesight gets worse as we get older. So we get the big 360. It's like I take a look from far away. Go, if the whole picture looks good from this distance, I'm good. I don't want to look at that magnifier. And I think that's teenage years, where you're analyzing everything and, oh, I got a zit. I can't leave the house. Now it's like I can stand upright. My hair isn't falling out. I've got all my teeth. That's all good.
I know. Actually, I just posted something I wrote this morning called designated tweezer. Because the only reason that I look really closely in the mirror now is to like, oh my God, I think you have a chin hair. So it's the only reason to look at a a magnifying mirror because they're there.
Yes, but it doesn't define who you are, for sure.
No.
So let's start with a little background on you. I'd love to have our audience hear, like, how did you get started in this field of stand-up comedy?
Well, I started by writing a blog called Gone Pausal, which was, very popular because I think I noticed, it just dawned on me that my friends and I, probably when we're in our mid-40s or 40s, somewhere in that decade, we're all like can't find things, can't see things, missing things. What did I call you? Did you call me? Where's my cell phone? I'm talking on it. Like all those things that seem to happen overnight, but happen slowly. And I just decided to start writing about it. I mean, I don't even think I knew what menopause was. I write a lot about that, and I don't mean to really dig too deep into that. But like my mother, and the joke is my mother said she went through it in one afternoon. Like myself and all my girlfriends, our mothers never talked about it. And it's a big life change. It affects everything about you. So I think when I started realizing all these things were changing, who is that person in the mirror? Even Nora Ephron and her genius, I feel bad about my neck. Just those things that you start noticing that when you're 30 and you're hot and beautiful and you never think about it. But we just started having these conversations. So I started this blog called Gone Pausal because we'd all been going towards menopause. And like, I don't know about your doctor, and I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but mine like never mentioned, he maybe mentioned two things, neither of which applied to me. So I tried just to get my friends and I to start talking about it. Then I started writing about it. Actually, I think it was my mother's idea because she actually thinks I'm funny. But so the more I wrote about it, and then I would just send it out to my friends, and they would laugh or they would respond. And I started this blog and website, and it just kind of mushroomed from there. So it's been, and then I started Instagram. Everyone got into Instagram, right? Are you on Instagram?
Sure.
Yeah. So I started turning my little blogs into videos because one of my friends is like, yeah, people like videos. They don't, they're not going to read anything. They make videos. So I took things from my book, and I think that's how I started into stand-up. I'm like, I never wrote anything down. I'm like, oh, here's a chapter on Queen of One Date. So or who are the people in People magazine? So since you only have to talk for a minute, it was before Instagram TV, I could just be funny for a minute. I was good at the minute comedy.
Yeah.
And then that wasn't too hard. And it was fun. I make myself laugh, I think, first and foremost. I entertain myself.
Well, that's good.
I know. And then so I decided I'd try Second City, being from Chicago, and spent all last summer at Second City going through everything. And now I just started doing open mics, which, are fun for me. It's a very new experience, seeing the world of, being on the stage as opposed to listening. So it's kind of where it started. I don't know if that explains it, but that's the short version.
Yeah, no, interesting. And so I'm thinking of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, of course. Have you watched
her
the
grandmother. Can we think of her grandmother? It would be me.
Her grandmother would be you.
Being old enough to be a grandmother.
Well, that's true. Her mother is like 40 and the 35.
Yeah,
I don't know. She's so young. Yeah, it's just interesting, like the whole Lenny Bruce thing, and I remember all that growing up. So I'm 63. I'm not afraid to tell my age, and I'm listening to your story, and yeah, people don't talk about a lot of things. They don't talk about the hard stuff, the sexual issues that happen in midlife, what happens to your body, how to protect yourself from STDs. I mean, I came to my gynecologist. I said, you really should talk to people who were in long-term relationships who are out there dating again about how to prevent STDs at this stage, because we don't know everything there is to know. And so there aren't a lot of resources for all of that. And it's, I didn't have a terrible menopausal experience. My mother had a hysterectomy when she was pretty young.
And she went through it beyond. Yeah.
Yeah, so she went through it kind of overnight, like your mom talks about, but she literally did go through it overnight. And so it's not having people to talk about all these things and then finding the humor in it, because I think there is a lot of humor. I know
there's a lot of humor if you can do it, if you can find humor, or find someone else who. I think finding the humor is if you can get one other person to go, oh yeah, I've been looking for my glasses for like 3 months now. Just someone else who. I will tell you the funny thing. Like, I was just visiting my son, who's a doctor. I went, Jesse, any woman who comes to you with a problem, it's menopause, and they're over 40, it's menopause. Because I don't even think they know. I mean, he's a doc, he's an attending. They don't even think about it. So
yeah, often it is, but also we don't want to go into like blaming women's issues on just hormones, because we have a lot of that from oh, you're on your period, I think you're crazy. We get a lot of that too.
I'm sorry for the
but
beeping.
it is important to look there. What was that?
I know. I think. I just heard it. I think it is important, and my doctor never mentioned it, and everything that happens to women. I think there are more women gynecologists, which is probably good for women, because I think men, much like everything else, even if they're trained, they think they're, they miss that chapter. They were all sick that day when they discussed it in medical school. But
right.
It's things change. Like I said, I think I at one point labeled myself the queen of one date, because I only go on, and I think what you said early on about women feeling good about themselves and dating and feeling that you're something of value. I think it's still difficult if you date, like, let's just say men over 50 or whatever your demographic is, and bless the women that are dating younger, like the Heidi Klums of the world. But it's difficult. I think men, I'm not dissing them. I've gone on way more dates than anyone should go on in any, 3 or 4 lifetimes. But I don't know. I still wonder how many men really want a really intelligent woman or a successful woman. Just yesterday, because I did some research on this, I was talking to a male friend of mine. He's a retired professional. And I think he feels that women that are very successful and been not hardened by success, but, worked hard to become successful. And he, I think he struggles with that, because it's not like what men are looking like. They're all looking for like the soft, gentle woman. But so I think dating is very difficult. He doesn't
enjoy dating successful women?
Well, I think he finds that he likes successful women. Of course, now men are looking for women that are coming along with money, as opposed to, I find a lot of them are resenting having to pay for women. There's so much we could go on for hours on this topic, but I think he likes interesting women, but I still think they have to keep their, sort of in the framework of femininity. And we've worked really hard to be successful. Like, we've competed in the world of, men. And I feel good about competing in the world of men. I was a private art dealer for 20 years. I had my own business, but it's tough, these are all tough roads to become,
Yeah. So it's not,
successful.
and I'll give you my dating coaching perspective on this, because this is a big topic in the whole dating coaching world. A lot of women feel that men don't ask them out again because they're intimidated by their success. That's like one of the number one reasons why women think men don't call them back. And there was this huge study done by Rachel Greenwald, who wrote a book called Haven't Met Hello. And she did exit interviews with 1,000 men about why they didn't call women back.
Wow.
And you don't usually get the opportunity to ask because they just don't call you back. And she did this for her Harvard master's thesis. And the reason that men said they didn't call women back was women who were bossy turned them off. So here's the thing with successful women. They often show up as men. Like you said, they want men want women who are more feminine. It's not about faking who you are, and I work a lot on this with clients. It's about bringing out more of your warmth and the part of you that doesn't need to compete anymore, because doing work, you've got to show up as, in your masculine energy, and this, like, I have to succeed, and I have to stay focused and on task, improve myself. But when you're on a date, that doesn't create attraction, So it's not saying suppress who you are. It's saying access that part of you that you've put on hold for so long because you've been independent, you've been running a business.
Don't you think?
It's not a natural thing because you've put up so many guards to succeed in life, and you don't want to get hurt. But if you don't access it, you don't create intimacy. You don't create polarizing connections, which is important. You need that polarity. Not polarizing, but polarity. You need to have opposites. Otherwise, you both show up as exactly the same thing. You're not going to find it attractive.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think that's a good point. But I also think, like, even from my female friends that are in business and they write letters, I went, get to the point. Men don't want to. Men don't care about the 800 words you put before the point. Just get to the point. So we're so used to, in the business world or doing business or whatever you're doing as a woman out in the world to earn money, we're used to just, no one has the time to hear a long explanation of anything. So I think that, you come to a date and I don't know, I can only speak for myself. I don't know if I'm pushy or not pushy, or, it's different. You're just like, I don't know. I think it's complicated. And another male friend I queried said, make sure you say that opposites don't attract. That at a certain point in life, you're not looking for someone who's going to bring so much interest to your life. You're looking for someone who does the same thing you do. We both play golf. We both play tennis. We both play pickleball, the newest thing that everyone's doing. So he said, make sure that you say opposites really don't attract. I mean, this is from a 63-year-old man.
Okay, so we're talking about similar interests, not similar values. And similar values is the most important thing. When I say opposites, like I was just saying before, you need polarity. It means that the person has to have something you don't have. You cannot just be clones of each other. It is boring. It doesn't create any kind of tension or attraction sexually. It creates a nice friendship. So I would say, yes, you do have to have similar interests. You're going to spend a lot of time together at this stage in life. But it's interesting. I think that, if you can't find anything in common, you're certainly not going to have fun on a date. But you want to make sure that the other person is providing something. And, all these women who are so independent, they want men to, like, take them and to, show up and be a guy, and not just be this wimpy, like, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to plan anything. You plan the date. We have to recapture some of the dating norms of the past, because what brought us here today, what brought us to this equal rights works really well in the workforce. It doesn't translate into romance. It just doesn't.
Yeah, I think it doesn't. And maybe you can explain this to me, because I've yet to get the right explanation. Because every one of the profiles I read, I think I have a PhD in profile reading, but on dating sites. But everyone's looking for, and I think it's so different. And I blame this world of, like candy store dating. Like, oh, maybe I like this piece, but then you go out and someone's too short, someone's too tall, someone's a little too, they're right-handed, you're looking for someone left-handed. There's like almost too many choices, but everyone's looking for the same word, chemistry. What does that mean? Especially when you meet someone one time.
So men write that a lot more than women, I think. And I think there's this false belief that we're going to be hit with these incredible butterflies. We're going to know the minute the person walks in, which is total BS. You might feel a connection. You might feel like, oh, they're really attractive. But chemistry develops over time when somebody continues to show up and be accountable and be kind and be interesting and be funny. That's how chemistry grows. But that immediate, oh my God, lust, that's a false premise, and that's totally media related. All the movies, the fairy tales about relationships and lights
it went
and
out in
rainbows.
1968 when you were sleeping with everybody with a ponytail and good weed. Right. It doesn't. But they all say the same thing, and I think because of the dating sites, you get one chance. And I do, like when I sit with someone, and I'll be just as guilty as the man. I sit there in the bubble over my head, and I live a lot in the bubble over my head. First of all, could I kiss him? Well, let's just say I could. Maybe I could. Then you start thinking, could I ever have sex with this guy? Could I ever have sex with this guy? And maybe if you got to know them over the next month or 2 months, you could, because they'd be great. They're funny. They're lovable. They're warm. They're, incredible men. But no one's. That doesn't happen so much anymore. Getting to know you. Do you know what I mean?
So that's why I work with clients on how to create the connections that help somebody want to contact you again. Because if you're showing up and just talking about, I lived here and I did this for a living, and you're not sharing the heart of who you are, then you're like a colleague or a friend, and you're not showing up with any romance at all. And it's hard to muster that up, but it's a skill set that can be learned. So, it is a very different way of dating. I remember back in my 20s how different it was, but it still was hard then. I mean, I wasn't meeting people I really connected with, which is why I chose my stand-up comic husband, because he was more interesting, and he was really interested in getting married, which nobody else was. It was just never been simple.
I think men, it's like Legally Blonde. Remember the movie Legally Blonde when one of the professors says about Elwood, do you think she just woke up this morning and said, I think I'll be a lawyer? See, I think men, one day, they wake up and go, I think I'll get married. I think I'll get married today. I think it's just a switch that flips. Not now. Now it's too late. Now I'm like, I'm 3 wives in, all my money. Another thing for FYI, all their money is accounted for. So if anyone's out there thinking they're looking for a little extra cash, it's, they all have children and grandchildren. All the estates are planned. You're not part of the estate planning. You might be part of dinner and a nice trip or two, but you're really not part of the estate planning. So that whole like Cinderella fantasy.
Yeah, it's not a get rich quick kind of transaction.
A 20-year-old looking for and willing to be someone's arm candy till they have their first stroke. But
right, exactly. So you labeled yourself as the queen of one date. Tell us some of your funny dating midlife stories.
Well, I think something that happens to me, and maybe you answered this already, is like I'll go out on a date with someone, and actually the less attracted I am to them, the more I feel guilty enough to sit there and continue talking instead of going, this isn't really going to work. This is let's just, we met, goodbye. But they'll talk to me for like 3 or 4 hours. Here we close the damn restaurant, and on a variety of subjects, whatever, name a subject. But and then I never hear from them again. That always baffles me. So I went on.
Well, it sounds like you're not attracted to them, though.
I'm ambivalent a lot of the times, and once in a while I'm attracted. And maybe that is it. Like you have to be far more honest about who you're really attracted to.
Definitely part of the process. I mean, so why are you staying on a date for 4 hours when you're not interested?
Because I don't know how to end it. Maybe you could help all of us who just don't know how to end these dates.
I have ended a date after like 20 minutes.
Well, what do
So
you
I
say?
believe in.
I would like to know this.
I'm direct. I just go. You seem like a nice person, but I'm not feeling a connection, and I'm gonna go. Have a real really good life. Good luck to you. Thank you so much for meeting me, and go.
Yeah.
I would rather somebody said that to me than tolerated 3 hours with me. It's just there, and if you don't interrupt, and I do a lot of interrupting too. If somebody's talking nonstop and they're not asking about me, I'll put my hand on their arm and I'll say, may I interrupt you? You've been talking for a while. Is there anything you'd like to know about me?
I have done that too. What do they
and how
say?
does it go?
What's your reaction to it? What do they say to you?
So a really conscious man will say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was really nervous. I was just talking too much." And a man who is reactive will possibly get up and leave. He could be really pissed. It's happened not to me, but it's happened to other people. What about you? What happens?
I haven't done it as much as you have. I mean, I'm the opposite. I'm like, oh, the kind of I don't really like him, so I seem to sit here out of a sense of guilt. And I'm the opposite. I sit there and sort of just keep talking, keep listening. All right, the man that goes on forever and is the expert in everything. It's super annoying. So I mean, like I said, I've gone on this succession. Oh, and I did ask one male friend like years ago. I went, I don't understand. I mean, I'm the queen of one date. He's like, I said, what do I do? He goes, see, you're asking a question. Just listen. Just be a listener. I mean, every time
I have a problem with that. I just got off the phone with a client earlier today who said that she read the same advice from a dating expert. Just listen more. And I find that most women who are dating at this stage in life are doing too much listening. Like they're tolerating these long conversations. Yes, listening is important and not getting uncomfortable with every silent space. But you also have to show up as you. Like you have to leave some kind of impression of who you are at your core. And you can't do that by just listening constantly.
No, you can't, because someday, here's my theory, someday the real you will come out. And they don't even know that person. They'll be like, and who are you? I mean,
right,
seriously.
So
I know someone right now watching TV he would never watch in a million ever years if I suggested it. He's sitting there watching shows. I mean, what's going to happen the day when he tells her he can't stand those shows? And I know he can't stand those shows.
So that's why when I work with somebody, I make sure that they bring more of who they are, their real self. That's why ending a date and saying I'm really not feeling it. I say it over the phone. It's kind to set a boundary with people and to stop like trying to think you have to hook a guy by being fake, by being something you're not, or faking what you like, faking orgasm. I mean, how many years have women been doing that?
I know. I had a man that I dated this summer. This is terrible. Not that it's terrible, but I mean, he kept telling me how I didn't like sex, and I basically, can we swear on your show? I mean, I won't. But I was just like, seriously, maybe it's just they don't like sex with you. Why didn't I say that? Why did I not say that? And he was the worst kisser, and I always think of myself, if nothing else, like I might be the queen of one date, but I'm the queen of kissing. And he was the absolute worst kisser. And I let him like accuse me. Oh, I hate myself. This is like the self-loathing in me. I let him, seriously, you're kind of self-loathing. I let him accuse me of not liking sex, which is not true. So I'm sure I've had more good sex than he's ever had in his 79 years. And I never said you're just a crappy kisser. I mean, he was the worst kisser. And,
so it's hard to do that. It's hard to tell somebody, you have bad breath.
His feelings, and he wasn't sparing my feelings, and I spent months defending myself.
So this is why I love dating at this age, and I love doing what I do, because I help women have a comeback and be able to say that that's hurt, that hurt my feelings, or or to say, like, there are ways to also help a bad kisser become a better kisser. Like, you can work with him. You can not just tolerate his crappy kissing. You know what I mean?
I did, but it doesn't work. I'm going to give everyone out there, hello, cannot teach a bad kisser to be a good kisser.
So I know people who have, but if it doesn't work, then it's time to cut bait. I remember one guy I dated years ago, and he was like a really sloppy, wet kisser. And I remember the first time he kissed me, I was like, "What the hell was that?" And I was just like, I really was so shocked. And he was like, "What? You don't like that?" And I said, "No, I don't like wet kisses all over my like that was. Can you make it a little drier?" I don't remember exactly what I said, but he did listen, and his kissing got better. So it was just like I couldn't fake that one. And I think part of what I love about this stage is, like, we are more honest. We tolerate less crap from people. So yeah, I mean, you probably won't have as much to laugh about if you start just just make ending everything, nipping it at the bud. But I do think there is a lot of comedy here. So do you have like one? Yeah, but like, do you have like one very funny story, not just about, like a general thing, but like something that happened that was very, very funny?
I don't have anything that was very, very funny. I mean, I think for me, they are sometimes not funny at the time, but when I come home and write about them, which a lot of people get very nervous that I had a blog and I write about my dates. That was one thing. They were afraid to do it, say anything or do anything. But I think that I've had, I don't know if I've had ones that are just funny, this is crazy funny, but when I come home and I think about it and I start writing about it, it becomes funny for me. I don't think it's a lot of them. I mean, I've had good dates. Look, I lived with a man I met online. I have a lot of good friends that I met via dating online, but I don't have anything was hysterically funny. I kind of just keep at it because a lot of them become really good friends. That's a good piece of advice. I mean, some of these guys are just great friends. So I don't know if I have anything particularly. I mean, I hate to not be funny when I'm funny, but I think when I'm finding funny, I'm supposed to be funny. But when I'm finding funny now is like the thought of dating someone younger. I mean, do I have the sort of I have two women friends that married someone 20 years younger. And so my whole new thing is whether I have the chutzpah, or the self-confidence to, why am I always dating women? You do not have to keep dating men 15 years older. So, I mean, my joke is that when men find someone younger and date someone younger, they're called lucky. And when women do, we're called like a wild mountain cat. We're called a cougar. I don't know. It's just like there's no parity. I mean, there's no like, why are women like, wild cats and men are lucky?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's really not a fair. It's not a fair labeling.
It's not fair. It's definitely not fair. So, my funny things, I will be honest to everyone listening. My funny things are a bit in hindsight. So the funniest ones are what I can how I can change it into something that was like boring or not fun, or what was this all about, into something, well, it was really kind of funny when you think about it. What he wore, what he said, who he is, what he does. Yeah.
I mean, some people just show up and say things that are like, what? How do people say things like that? I had a date where, so I don't tell people what I do because I don't want them thinking I'm analyzing them, which I'm sure you have similar, with you writing about your dates. And I used to write about my dates a lot more than I do today. But so I tell people I'm a life coach, which I am. That was my certification. And then as I get to know them, if we have a few dates, then I'll tell them more about what I do. So this one guy looked me up, and he came in to the date. First of all, he had lied about his age by several years, and he told me, when you Google me, you're going to find lots of different ages. Well, you know how Google is. And I'm like, no, I don't know how Google is. Like, it only gets like that if you've entered many different ages. So how old are you?
Right.
And he wouldn't tell me. He was in his 70s. He's probably like 73, and he listed maybe 68 as his age. And I said, like, I don't care how old you are. I care that you're telling me the truth. And he goes, well, you lied. I said, really? How did I lie? He goes, you told me you're a life coach. You're not a life coach. I said, yeah, I am a life coach. And he goes, no, you're a dating coach. You are all over the internet. I spent all Monday night researching you. And he had a list in his pocket of everything he found out about me. And he started asking me questions. And he knew about my ex being a comedian. He read an article that was in the New York Times magazine that listed my children's names. He knew where I used to live. He thought it was where I still live. I mean, he was telling me all this. You live here. Your kids' names are this.
Oh, my God.
I'm so sorry this happened to you. It was just like, what the hell is this? And that was one of the dates I ended pretty early.
Well, I've had those. Like, they know exactly. They read your. I had one man come who ordered my book. He goes, I think I'm going to order your book before we go out. He ordered my book, and he came with a list of questions. And I have people who do that, or they read my blog and they go, because one of them I write about waxing, the Brazilian wax versus just shaving, or blah blah blah. So they will read those things. And then they will come with those exactly the same thing. I had one man lie about his age by 10 years. Because he went, well, when I had my hip done when I was 65, 10 years ago, I went, but your profile says you're 65, but that would make you 75.
Yeah.
So,
it's just like, tell the truth.
Tell women this. More and more men, including my male friends, I went, I just read your profile. You said you were, 59. You're 68. I mean, so more and more men are lying.
I think the age fib is very common, and, people do lie about their age a lot. It's almost like ghosting, where people just think it's the norm. And so you just assume if everybody's lying, I should lie too, which I think is really a problem. Because it starts a relationship with distrust.
But I feel sorry for women. I'll tell you something. I lie about my age. Well, first of all, my mother used to make me lie about my age. My mother lies about her age. Only now she's 102, so she doesn't lie anymore. But
is she really?
Men? Yes, she really is.
Wow. So how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I do mind you asking. I mean, I don't mind you asking, but I'm not going to tell you.
Okay,
but
I told you.
I think women have, I honestly believe this, and I understand where you should come from a point of truth, but there are so many men that are 70 that refuse to go out with a woman who's 70. They refuse to go out with a woman who's, I'm never going to be 70 because I just refuse to be, because I think I'll never have another date unless I start dating younger, because I don't think younger men care as much as older men. I mean, the double standard. And maybe because I grew up with it, and, you might have being your age too, we all are in the same demographic, that we grew up with the double standard. It's still out there.
Yeah, it's out there, but whatever. I mean, there's a lot to say on this, but, so my question for you, my final question is, I always like to ask my guests, and not sure what you have in terms of advice for women, but I like to know if a woman wants to go on her last first date, what advice do you have?
Yikes. I would say that I'd like to go on my last first date also. I think that what you said is right. Just be who you are. Don't be a big surprise. Don't be a big surprise. And I think it's tough for women that have been in business to go out on a date and be the soft, feminine person. I mean, I think there's obstacles, and maybe working on, look, you gave me some advice this morning. I think working on some of those. Remember when we were a little more coquettish, or a little, more feminine, and not the hard, not the businesswoman, and parse those profiles, because there's a lot to be said in those profiles. If you're online dating, read them. Like if someone says conservative and you're a liberal, don't go. It's just, especially this time, just especially now. Or if they say they like things you don't really like and you're just ethically or morally against, and you're an atheist and they're a Roman Catholic. I mean, there are certain things in all that writing that will those that are obstacles. So why start? I think that's to your point. Why start with obstacles when they're just going to be there regardless, So and keep going. I mean, you caught me kind of on a cynical day, but just keep trying. Seriously, try and get people to look up from their cell phones.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right? I actually used to say to people, I'm going to put my phone away. Would you put yours away so we could just focus on each other? Because you don't want the phone out. I once had a mock date with somebody. This is many years ago. I met a guy at an event that I was speaking at, and he said, can I hire you to go on a mock date with me? And I'm like, okay. I came up with a price, and he took me on a date, and I said, well, what are you working on? And he said, well, I actually love dating. I'm not really working on it. He really wanted to ask me out and didn't have the balls to do it. But the first thing I said to him, he had his phone out, and he goes, I'm only going to answer it if it's my kids. I said, how old are your kids? He said, oh, they're all married and have kids. And I'm like, put the phone away. It's like,
that's
seriously,
funny.
You're out with me for like an hour and a half, and you're going to answer the phone if your kids call? Like, let your kids know to do not disturb. We have.
That is good advice. Oh, and I apologize for my cynicism. I know you wanted me to be funnier about it, but I just keep.
No, it's okay.
I agree. Just keep trying.
I like
you
what you said. Yeah, you got to keep trying, which is great advice. And I think also you said you made a lot of friends, and that's also a good outcome. It's not only one thing. It's not just I'm going to find love. It's I can also make a friend, and that could be a good outcome.
Say I made some great male friends. So don't dismiss them as friends because men are fun. They're just as much fun as women, and different but fun.
Mhm. Yeah.
So turn some of them some of them are my besties. So I am happy about that. I am happy about that.
I think that's good. I think it's good to also, like you shared, male perspective, and it's good for women to hear from men. What are they experiencing? Because we only see it through a narrow lens. So this is great. We're going to have to end, but I would love for you to let people know how they can find you.
They can find me on Instagram, all my funny videos, Gail Forrest on Instagram. They're pretty funny. I have a YouTube channel, Gail Forrest on YouTube. I'm Gail Forrest on Facebook. My website is gailforrest.com. I post on many, many women's sites on Facebook. Can I name them or not name them?
We're kind of short on time because we're going to get bounced off the show in a minute. But you can send them to me, and I'll put them in the show notes.
All right, and
I can link to anything.
Book, order the book. Everything I have to say and all my dates are in the book. So
Okay,
you can read the funny version after the sad version that I told you today on the radio.
What's the book called?
Gonpausal. All one word, GONEPAUSAL on Amazon.
On Amazon. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much, Gail. This was really fun, and we learned a little bit about your perspective on dating, and I think it's interesting to hear from you, from other men, and you left us with some nice tips for how people can go on their last first date. So thank you so much.
Be a woman. Okay. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
Okay, you too. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. If you love our show, please rate us and review us on iTunes. And spread the word. Let people know about our show. And we hope you go on your last first date very soon.